Welcome to the Coach's Corner podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Tripoli, Coach Tripp, to my players, along with my partner here, Mark Hobley, Coach Hobbs. We got a couple special guests today, Hobbs.
All right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. We got up next to us my high school teammate and Bama teammate, Todd Richardson, wide receiver. Todd, Rich, thanks for joining the show, brother.
Thanks for having me, Tripp. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. And then below, not my teammate, but yes, Todd Richardson's teammate, great two-time All-American Bobby Humphrey. Bobby, thanks for joining the show, buddy.
Hey, man, happy to be on, man. Delighted to be here.
Oh, my God. We're going to have a blast. I mean, you guys have amazing stories. So I want our listeners to learn from the beginning. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So, T. Rich, talk about growing up in Syracuse and how you got to Liverpool and how you got to Alabama. Crazy story.
I followed you. You know that. I followed you. You used to come over and beat my old high school up, and I couldn't take it no more.
Hey, we had a lot of D1s. George O'Leary loaded us up with D1s.
I couldn't take it no more. There's too much speed out there.
So what did I miss here? Y'all two played against each other in high school?
Well, go ahead and explain it, Tripp.
Well, you go ahead because he started out at another high school, and then we beat him up, and we had really good teams, and O'Leary turned us around, and he wanted to go to a winner, and that's why he probably went to Alabama. We're going to hear the story, but yeah, we were high school teammates for shortly. Like he was a sophomore, I was a senior, and
wow.
Yeah, I know. And he also got my number 23, but we're going to let him tell that story. All right, teammate. Wow. Yeah.
Hey, oh, man. But serious business, back in the day, football was big in our area. And especially when your group came through, they only kept a few in Syracuse. And a lot of the skilled guys, they just didn't recruit. I don't know. Like you were saying, they didn't really recruit you. Syracuse didn't recruit me at all. But I think the thing was I didn't really want to go to Syracuse. And a lot of people, this is what gets on my nerves when people say living the dream. No, I lived the dream because I played at Alabama.
Right.
I lived the dream. And I just got tired of y'all beating up on us in high school. So when that school canceled sports for that year, I seized that moment. I was like, I can transfer. And they're, up there, the districts, they're big on the districts up there. So you got to be in the right zone. And I just lived a mile outside of the zone. And that was a big thing too. Also, that school didn't help the student athlete far as where you wanted to go in the future, whether it was playing football or not playing football.
Right.
You were a body to them. And I didn't appreciate that. And I came from a military family. They weren't having it. Bobby met my mother before, and she was the type of woman that was not having it. We want the best for our son, and you're gonna give it to him. So we went to Liverpool.
That's where you learned because Larry set such a high standard there.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Henry Florinori was on the varsity as a freshman. Your classmate, Henry Florinori.
Yeah. And like I said, he gave you a lot of props. He gave all you guys props because he recognized where our legacy came from was from you guys. And it's just like when I met Bobby, and Bobby probably don't even remember when we met and how we met. But I remember, and it's some things you'll never forget when you go to a school like Alabama, especially from the north. First of all, we talk different.
Right.
We did anything different. We walked different. But I remember played a game somewhere. I forgot where it was. And players went home for the weekend or for the day or something. And I was sitting outside of Bear Bryant Hall, just sitting there. And I remember Bobby and some of the guys from Birmingham, they left. And he had a blue car. I forgot what it was. I got a good memory now. He U-turned. I don't know if he U-turned or forgot something. I was sitting on that wall still. And he said, "Hey, what you doing this weekend?" I said, "Nothing." I said, I can't go home or nothing like that. He said, "Don't worry about it. You're coming with us. And I knew right then and there that he was more than a football player. And I ran into that with a lot of players down there.
Yeah.
And what solidified that was when my mom met his mom, my pops came down and we had a game in Birmingham. Them two talked for hours. They talked for hours.
Yeah.
We would sit and laugh and joke, and they would just look at us like we had four heads. But all I know is for that man to invite me to his home, barely even knowing me, that showed more than just how great of an athlete he is. That's Bobby Humphreys.
Yeah, Bobby Humphrey, the Southern hospitality. I felt it quickly too, because I was Brian Hall, only ones on the weekend as well.
Oh,
I remember that.
It's tough. It's tough when it's hard when you don't have transportation. It's hard. But
so how did you get to Bama? I know Joe Riccardi got me to Bama. But tell everybody who Joe Riccardi is and the things that he did for you and I.
Okay, what Joe is, he played in the 70s in Alabama when we were real young. And Joe pretty much was one of the only persons from the Syracuse and New York area to go to Alabama. And if I want to say I don't know if he walked on like us or if he went
he did.
But knowing Joe, he just showed up on campus. And Joe's thing is, and he proposed a question to me. It got down late in the recruiting. I really didn't know where I wanted to go. I know where I wanted to be, but Alabama wasn't recruiting me. So we played an all-star game, and Ken Donahue was in town. I don't know why Ken Donahue was in town, but he saw me play.
Oh.
Yes, Ken Donahue saw me play. The next thing you know, he wanted our quarterback, Chris Jones. This guy never played a lick of football after high school because he played professional baseball his whole career.
Right.
And retired from professional baseball.
Right.
But when he saw me at the All-Star game, they were like, who's that little guy? I was in high school. I was 5'7", 140 pounds.
Wow.
And
you're nice.
Yeah.
Top size.
So Ken Donahue said he talked to Coach Perkins. Coach Perkins called me in class and asked me, what my future looked like and what I wanted to do. And I told him where I wanted to be. And from there, I did walk on and followed it's like I literally followed your footsteps, Paul. The work ethic, the weight room. We were doing weights in high school. The only thing I didn't have you around for was film. I had no earthly idea how to look at film. None whatsoever.
Right.
And I learned a lot about the sport and why you do things. But I also learned a lot about how people were at Alabama.
Todd, you and I had kind of like the same path of walking on from upstate New York to Alabama, but Bobby was heavily recruited from Birmingham. High school. Yeah. And Bobby, talk about the recruiting process for you and how you got to Bama. Were other schools? Were you thinking about other schools, or did you grow up a Bama fan? Talk about your mom and dad and your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I really kind of grew up. I don't know if I was a Bama fan, but I was definitely a Bama supporter of them when they used to come to town. Alabama used to play all their games, all their big games at Legion Field, in Birmingham at Legion Field. Well, I grew up in the housing projects that's right across the street from Legion Field in Illiton Village. And whenever Alabama came to town, it allowed us opportunity to park cars and make some money.
Right.
And that was big, around the stadium. You had houses, you had the projects, and I parked cars, and then later on I sold Cokes, worked at the stadium, and had a chance to watch some of the Alabama games, while I was there, working in the concession stands or working as a Coke boy. You remember the old days where they used to tote around the Coke racks.
You
didn't go to the concession stands. You came around with a rack and you sold pretty much Cokes out of the rack and those iron racks.
Walking up and down the stands.
Yeah,
Motor
up and down
down
stands. Yep, and I was in the upper deck. And man, to be honest with you, I realized that I realized after a couple of maybe after a year or so working in the upper deck and working in the stands, I realized that ice sold quicker than the Coke. So I would go and pour the Coke out until people had a cup of ice. And I sold the ice and made money for the ice. Well, you know, at that time, I didn't understand what was so important about the ice.
Yes.
Later on in life,
you get that ice is a lot more important. That ice is a lot more important than that Coca-Cola.
They just need a little Coca-Cola.
I just need a
They
little.
got a bottle of whiskey and that
Right. I just need a little. I just need a little Coca-Cola. You're right.
Yeah. So, but I ended up being recruited out of Glenn High School, which was not a very powerhouse football school. We actually didn't win very many games, but I had a couple of good games early on in my career that some fans noticed in the stands. You know, we played Walker County. I went for about 250 some yards against them. Ran 2 back-to-back screenplays. One, we ran a screenplay, and I went about, maybe about 60 yards, and there was a holding call. And the coach was so furious. You know, one of them holding calls where the play is in front of the foul, the guy commits the foul behind you, and you in front, the ball is in front, and the coach was so mad, he threw his hat to the ground and said, run it again. This is in a game against Walker County. So we ran the screenplay again, but just ran it to the other side. And I went down the other sideline for 80 yards. And in that particular ball game, because I was about like Todd, I was only about 170 pounds, 6'1", tall, skinny, playing running back, slim running back. Todd, when I was there, I was the tallest running back in the on the team.
Yeah. Yep.
They just, running backs just, other than Eric Dickerson and guys like that, running backs weren't tall back in the days.
No, low center of gravity.
That's right, low center of gravity. So I ended up being recruited. Someone called Tuscaloosa, and needless to say, I had a coach show up down there and asking about me and everything. And then from that point, I started being recruited. I was recruited by Alabama, Auburn, which at that time, Todd, those were the 2 powerhouses. They pretty much got whatever they wanted in the state. And pretty much kids didn't really lead the state. If you kind of got that type of minimum, you either went to Alabama or Auburn. Those were the 2 schools. Nobody else going to out-recruit you.
No kids from California coming in. I mean, talk about how hard it was. 90% of the kids were from Alabama back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Right. We had a few, we had Todd. We had Al
Trent came down.
Trent came down. We had Al Bell from California. I don't know of anybody else other than y'all 3 that was really from out of state that I could think of.
Bobby, you had some really memorable moments at Bama. 86, of course, you had the 3 TDs in the Sun Bowl against Washington. 1987, of course, the 220 yards against Penn State. Talk about some of the memorable moments of Bama and you had some injuries. You broke your foot your senior year. You had the school record 3,400 yards in like 2.5 years. Talk about some memorable moments, because we forget all the games, right? I forget all the games and the plays. Of course, you forget a lot of the plays, but only some of those plays you remember pretty crystal clear. I know I do. But tell our audience, some of the great ones.
I don't know, but Todd, I would think when we went on the road up there and beat Penn State up there, it's probably one of our most memorable games.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. But, that was, that was a pretty exciting
Was that the national title? They won the national title that year?
Yeah, they ended up winning the national title that year. They ended up beating Miami. Yeah. The Fiesta Bowl. Penn State did. No, I take that back. I take that back. No, that game was in 87.
87.
Yeah, it was real wet. It
rained the whole game. Storm. That's right.
Yeah, it was a big storm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think who won the national championship that year. It wasn't Notre Dame, was it? Tim Brown won the Heisman that year in '87. Who
And
won
you
the
know, I was
national
on,
championship in '87?
I want to say I was
Anyone.
on defense then too. I was on defense then too, I think.
That's right. That's right.
Testaverde
You
won
playing?
the
We won the
Did
top
Miami
special
win it in
teams.
'87? Because
Miami.
FSU was real good.
That's right. Miami won in '87.
Miami won it in '87.
Yeah, Miami won in '87.
FSU by 1 or 2
Yeah,
points.
Testaverde was the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, that's right. You're sure right.
Yeah, Miami won
My
it.
Tampa Bay teammate, Vinny.
Yeah, so that, you know, and you were talking about Joe Paterno was in his prime. It was Curry's first year.
Yeah,
I didn't realize, Todd, you got recruited by Ray Perkins.
yes.
I didn't realize that.
All right, let's talk of Coach Perkins stories, man. I love Coach Perkins.
Oh,
Hey, I
man.
had him in college and in the pros, so I know Perk pretty good. We played golf together. But Todd, tell us Coach Perk's story.
Well, we were running. I want to say we were all as a freshman. First of all, when I got to school late because there was a problem. I was supposed to go to another school and got out of that.
Oh.
So I show up in street clothes to practice. They go ahead and give me some issues, some equipment, everything. I noticed all the linemen got on small stuff, and I had large and mediums to pick from. I can't work out in this stuff. Long story short, we were coming off the field. Perk nudges me. He says, "Hey," I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you think about it so far?" I said, "It's hot." He says, "You'll get used to it." Sooner or later, I passed out or something like that. Coach Donahue, I come to Coach Donahue sitting there at the table. He's eating, and he act like it was just moving up 20 yards. But Perk was a trip. He came to me. He says, "Oh, you're gonna get used to it, this, that, or whatever." He goes, "You think you're tough?" I says, "Yeah, I think I'm tough." He goes, What would you do if I just tackled you right now?" I said, "Coach, I'll probably cramp up." Coach, but he had those steely eyes, and you'd tell on yourself and you did nothing. But he was just one of them guys, man, that I really think Coach Perkins and Coach Curry, they were night and day, but they both had their ways of communicating to you effectively. Yeah. And you know, Perk was big like that. He did communicate. He knew I was away from home. He knew what I was going through when I first came down there. Oh, I've been away from home, but to step in a world like Alabama, and we had Paul, we got Division I friends. Bobby, you got Division I friends. There's nothing like Alabama, and people think I'm being sarcastic when I say it. There's nothing like Alabama, and Perk was a man of his own. It was going to go his way or no way.
Yeah, I had Cornelius Bennett on last week. He had a special relationship with Perk.
Yeah.
Bobby, talk about Coach Perk.
I remember we was at practice one day, and it was the ones against the ones, and doggone it, Cornelius Bennett made every play. We couldn't get nothing done. He was this and that, and Coach Perkins just stopped practice and said, "Biscuit, get out of there." He put him on the practice and said, "We can't get nothing done with you in there."
Nobody could block him, man.
Right.
He was one of those guys. Oh my God.
Perk was like Todd said. Perk was hard-nosed, serious, tough.
Yes.
Very no personality, no nonsense guy.
No. Coach just do the job. You know, hardworking. You know, he was. I remember coming from Canada. I went through training camp and then 4 or 5 games in Canada, like in June, July, and then I went right into training camp in Tampa Bay. So I just got through with the training camp, and now I'm going into Coach Perkins's training camp. No regular training camp. Because even just the last 15 years, guys that go to the NFL, they say that Bama's practices are 10 times harder than the NFL's practices, but not with Perk. He had 3 days down in Tampa.
Yeah, we remember that 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
I don't even know how we managed to get through that 3 practice in one day. That was,
We can say this now. Was that even legal?
No, it was. It goes back then, but it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not legal.
No, it probably wasn't legal. But who cared? Perkins didn't care. Was it illegal for us to go to? Perk didn't care.
He sure did. He did. Hey,
He did.
Hey, Bobby, you know what I used to like to hear him say? I don't care what's going on. Just get on the bus. We getting on the bus. Just get on the bus. Just get on the bus. We're going. This is what we're going.
We're going. And we went over there to Willie Wild's funeral, but we didn't supposed to go over there. NCAA told us we couldn't go.
Oh, he's tough. Coach Perkins was tough, man. Went one time in Tampa, we're playing the Saints, last game of the year, and the Saints have to win to go to the playoffs in the first time in like 20 years. And it's a nip and tuck game. Testaverde there, and all of a sudden at halftime, I turn around and Perk's going at it with our offensive linemen, just going. They're exchanging blows and going at it, and I was like, wow, man, he's intense. Like we're like 3-12. You know, we've only won 3 games, and the strike team won 2 of those 3 games. So
hey, tell me this: didn't Perk get in a fight and got beat up by one of the players down there in Tampa?
Well, he broke his hand during. Yeah, he came back Monday. He had a cast on his hand. He broke his hand. Yeah, big Ron Hall, big Heller, Ron Heller, big guy, big offensive lineman. Yeah, they were going at it. Yeah, he was intense, man. He was. That's why he was a great player. He played with under Shula and those guys, and won a lot of championships. Pete Shinnick, the UWF national championship Division II coach here at Argos. His dad played with Coach Perk for a long time.
Yeah, but that's a little bit of size difference when you're talking about Coach Perkins fighting the offensive or defensive line.
Yeah, he didn't care.
He didn't
care. He didn't care. We'd go out on the golf tournament. We try to have long drive contests. Him and I, we would do all sorts of competitions on the course.
Yeah, he didn't care. I know one thing he did care about though. If there was lightning, Perk was not sitting outside when thunder and lightning was going on at practice. He was not sitting outside
because of the steel. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of metal bars in his body.
Right, in his head, he had metal bars in his head. I was with him on that. I was okay with that because when I got hit when I was 14 years old, I got hit by lightning. That's my excuse. That's my excuse today. Hey, Bobby, man, you had to go through adversity, man. You broke your foot in your senior year, man. My son broke his shoulder, his femur, in his shoulder in his senior year. That was heartbreaking for me, for him, obviously. But talk about how you overcame it, and now that Marlon's seen some injuries, have you gave him some advice on that kind of stuff that happens?
Well, man, it was kind of tough my senior year, man. We had a special team my senior year. Oh wow, we were going to be really, really good. You're talking about Derek Thomas. You had me. You had Gene Jeffs, and I both got hurt in the same game.
Yes. Yeah, that's in Murray Hill game.
And Gene Jeffs led the conference, not the conference, but the college in punt return and kick return and punt return.
Yeah,
and he was one of the starting DBs at that time.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I mean, we both got hurt, season-ending injuries in the same game, the Vanderbilt game, and it was. I mean, we had a squad our senior year in 88. I mean, a squad, and it just seemed like that one was a tough one. That was a really, really tough game right there, a tough season, because that was the second time I had broke my foot. So I broke it during the spring,
right? And
they did a procedure, and it didn't hold up. So I broke it again after the third game of the season. Well, actually, that was the second game of the season, really the third week, but the second game, because we were supposed to go on the road. After we went to Temple, we were supposed to go on the road and play Texas A&M, but the hurricane came.
Yep.
So they pushed that game all the way back to the end of the season.
Yep. And
they called it the Hurricane Bowl.
Yep.
That ended up being the last game of the season after the Auburn game. Actually, before we went to the bowl game.
Yep.
Yeah, it was after the Auburn game, I think. Am I right about that, Tom?
I think you're right, because because they couldn't get rid of the bye week, so they had to put it in there. I think you're absolutely right that it was after the Auburn game.
Yeah, I think it was after the Auburn game, and they called it to. I had to go back and research, but I think it was after the Auburn game.
Yeah.
All right.
And I
Go ahead, Bobby.
I think we went on to play. We went on to play Army
in the Sun Bowl. Sun Bowl, yep.
In the Sun Bowl for our bowl game, which was, I think, in December, close to around about December the 25th, close to around about Christmas, I think. Either the day after the Christmas or somewhere, a day of Christmas, something like that.
Bobby, your wife, Barb, was a great athlete, track athlete. And you have 5 kids, 3 girls and 2 boys. Your girls were 2 of them are track athletes. One is your youngest, I think, is a basketball player. But talk about Barb and her great career and the genes that you passed on to the girls. I think you had 1 hurdler, right? One that was a hurdler.
Well, actually, I have 3 boys and 2 girls.
Oh, okay, 3 boys and 2 girls. I'm sorry.
You got the 5 right, just not the gender.
Yeah. No, well,
but and you got basketball right too. One of my oldest 2 sons played football, and my youngest son, he just played basketball. He wanted to play basketball, but both my daughters ran track, and my wife actually ran track at UAB. And Todd knows Barbara very well.
That's where they get the speed from. That's where they get the speed from. They didn't get it from him.
I heard about that. I heard about that, man.
He's telling the truth.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, matter of fact, she still holds the 400-meter record at UAB that she set back in 1986.
Wow. I told you, Trip.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, I told Chris Good. I said, I called him up the other night, man, because I know that he played with you at the Colts when you got traded to the Colts when Chris was there, and he said, "Man, Bobby was just like, he was skinny." I said, "No, he wasn't. He was like 230, 220, wasn't he?"
Oh yes,
no, he was 205, 210. I was like, "Wait a minute, he looked like Gale Sayers out there." He was so strong. Bobby, though, you were really strong though.
Yeah, I was strong. Lower body wise, I ran with a lot of power, but yeah, truth be told, I only weighed about 205, 200 when I was in the league. I played about 200 in the league, and at Alabama, I came in at 175, put on some weight. My senior year, I was about at 190, 195, and then I put on some. I would set some mature weight when I got to the NFL, but no, you're right. Chris is right. I was a little thin fella. And Todd was thinner than I was. I think Todd may have maxed out about 180, maybe 175. I don't know how much he weighed when he was in college.
Todd was slash. He could have played, like H-back, running back, wide receiver, DB. I think he did play wide receiver and DB. Todd, talk about switching positions.
At first, I never played on the defensive side of the ball. When
oh wow, I didn't know that.
In high school, we didn't have 2-way players. We had an offense, a defense, and a special teams, and they combined it. And Trip knows we had about 65 players in high school on our team. So you went ones against ones every day, but I never played defensive back. So I would get yelled at a lot about turning my hips to run to get the deep ball. And Mike Shula helped me in my progression on being a DB because the way his arm delivery was, I could time it. I could time it and either, break up a pass or stuff like that. But it was very awkward backpedaling. Yeah. And moving to wide receiver was just as awkward because they made us block. When you got Gene Jelks and Bobby Humphrey in the backfield, as a wide receiver, there's one thing you're going to do. If you want to get on that bus,
block.
You're going to learn to block. You're going to learn to block. And here's the thing. If you finish your block and you see Bobby or Gene coming, just get out the way. Because you completed the block. And there's plenty of times that Bobby came through the hole and I'd be seeing him face to face and I'd be like, I must have did my job right. Because I tell you what, he was shifty in the hole too now. Bobby was shifty. Don't let it fool you. He had some power, but he was shifty.
No, Bobby made the Pro Bowl in 1990, man, and then Marlon comes along, and he, if I'm not correct, he's the youngest son, right?
No, Marlon is the middle child.
The middle child. Okay, I'm guessing, but hey,
yeah, we're gonna have to go have a cup of coffee after.
That's all right, brother. We sat together at the Hall of Fame. You know, at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there was so much going on then, though.
Al Miller, yeah, I know, man. We say, talk to Walter Lewis and give him a call and say, hey, man, you got to get on Tripp's podcast. Give him a little boost, man.
Okay, here are the way they go, Tripp. So they, you got Madrika, my son is the oldest, and they all 2 years apart. So, Madrika is 32. My daughter is 30. Marlon is 28. Brittany, my daughter, is 26. And Marion, the youngest that plays basketball, is 24. So they all 2 years apart.
Okay. This is my question.
It's boy, girl, boy, and Marlon is in the middle.
All right, I got a theory. All right, I just want to ask you. The youngest one's usually always the toughest and scrappiest, right? And am I wrong, or is that the hold in your family?
Is that what now?
Does that hold in your family? That theory? Hold up, the youngest ones, the scrappy ones, and a little bit.
A little bit. The youngest one was always trying to compete and outdo the oldest one, so that what made him so special. He's actually the most talented one of my children, the youngest one.
Yeah.
So that's because he's always trying to outdo them, and you start at an early age. You kind of watch the oldest, you kind of watch the middle child, and you try to outdo them. And he was able to do a lot of that, but he just didn't play. He just didn't play football. He played football in middle school, but after middle school, he wanted to concentrate all on basketball. And he ended up signing a 4-year basketball scholarship at the University of San Diego. And then he left there and went to junior college in Salt Lake City Community College, and then left there and went to University of Texas Arlington to play basketball. And so he's had a basketball career. He's done more traveling than any of my other kids have done. And we've done more traveling with him. I hadn't spent a whole lot of time in San Diego, but when I did to support him there, and then I never gone to Salt Lake City, and we had some good times out there. And then the easiest one was when he went to Dallas and or Arlington, and we had a really good time there, and just a one-way, straight direct flight to Dallas rather than flying in a 2 hour time change.
Yeah. And
but we had a good time following him and following basketball. At least he put us in a controlled climate, which we was pretty excited about that.
Hey, you talk about traveling. Todd travels more than anybody in his rig. Todd, when you go around and talk Alabama and tell that you played at Alabama, they must look at you like you're a lying trucker.
Actually, I really don't. I really don't, because I really don't brag about playing at Alabama. It was something about I don't know. Teammates.
Come on, man! You got to
play the Bama card, Tom.
Yeah, you got to play the Bama card, man.
Well, okay,
you got a great story. You shouldn't be ashamed of it.
My first truck was all decked out in Alabama. Tripp's got a picture of it. I don't know if I ever sent you a picture, Bobby, but it had the A on it and everything. So I was out in Nebraska, and I do the flatbed tarp load. So I had to tarp this load, and I never tarped the load before. So I was faking it till I make it. But I got to a certain point that I didn't know what I was doing. So I'm standing over there, and this guy looks at me. He goes, "Hey, Bama." I said, "Yeah, what's happening?" He said, "Roll Tide, that load ain't gonna tarp itself. You better get in the fourth quarter."
Wow.
But it was freezing cold, and Nebraska's windy. So my tarp's blowing all over the lot. I don't know what I'm doing, but he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Alabama, that load ain't gonna tarp itself. You better get to work." But that card wasn't working there. But yeah, that decked out truck I used to have, that got some attention there. That got some attention.
Yeah, it did.
got a
All
lot
right.
of thumbs up.
All right, let's talk about my favorites. One of my favorite subjects, first family of Alabama football, the Good family. Kerry Good, Chris Good. I played with both of them. I was blessed to play with both those guys. Just great people. But Kerry is such an inspiration with his book, Good and Faithful Servant. And Chris Good's a great dude and a great story. Only started one game in Alabama and then 7 years for the Colts. But talk about both of you guys. Talk about the Good family. I didn't get the privilege to know Clyde Jr., Pierre, but what a family. Todd, why don't you start talking about the Good family?
It's just they're in the same realm as the Humphrey family. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like I said, they were some great people to meet, and they pretty much took me in the same way Bobby and the family took me in. You know, I don't know why, but it was just the hospitality. I mean, words don't do justice for that hospitality, the friendship, and everything that came with both those families that, you know, is genuine.
Right.
It's genuine, man. And you take it with you the rest of your life. And the Good family is, to me, is just same way Bobby and a lot of families that took me in.
Bobby, why hasn't ESPN done a 30 for 30 on the Good family? It's just from mom and dad, who thank God are still with us, to all the way through that Antonio Langham. A lot of people, and congratulations, Antonio Langham, getting in the College Football Hall of Fame. But I think it was the first cousin. I think he lived with the Goods for a while. But talk about the Goods.
Yeah, I agree with Todd. It's just an amazing family, from the father, the mother, and the competitiveness and all of the state championships they've won over the years, you know, in high school football and track and field.
Yep.
You know, those guys, that family owned all the records for a long time down in Selma with track and field. And it's just amazing the hard work and the drive that they all have. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. I never realized that Chris never was a starter at Alabama.
Yep.
But yet he gets drafted and he plays in the NFL for, you said, 7 years?
Yes, sir.
7 years.
Sir.
Yep.
And started in the NFL and had a very good career.
Right.
Yeah. And no doubt in my mind, if Kerry doesn't, you know, unfortunately get hurt the way he got hurt, he possibly plays in the NFL. Pierre was a speedster, and Clyde, you know, was good as well. The baby goo, who we call him the baby goo, but you know, and not only were they great athletes, they were great people. Yes. You know, good spirit people,
right?
Good salt of earth people. I mean, give you the shirt off their back.
Oh yeah.
You know, mom, dad, and even the cousins like Antonio Langham and all those. Yeah. You know, there's just a great gene pool right there.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
I guess so. Gene pools, man. You and Marlon both number 26 at Alabama. Oh my gosh, how did that make you feel when he got his dad's number?
Yeah, that made me feel pretty good when he went in and changed his number. He started out with number 29 because at that time Landon Collins had 26. Landon Collins decided to go to the NFL early. Fortunate thing is Marlon hadn't technically played a game under the number 29, although he dressed a few games, but he never got in the game. So technically, he never really played with the number 29. Right. Now, high school, he played with 29 for a couple of seasons. Then he moved to 26 because somebody else had 26 when he was a sophomore at Hoover High School. But that particular senior graduated, and he was able to get 26. And then when he got to the NFL, somebody had 26, so he went back to 29, and then he when Earl came in, you know, Earl Thomas was a veteran, and Marlon decided to sell his jersey well, he didn't really sell it to him, but he told him he'll sell it to him, but didn't. But Earl Thomas ended up making a donation to our track club because Marlon gave up the jersey. We run a track club. So he gave us a donation to our nonprofit, our track club. And Marlon gave up.
Wait a minute. We got to talk about, I don't think any of these guys, maybe 95, 98% of the audience doesn't know. Marlon has given back recently. Talk about, I think, how much did he, $250,000, how much did he give back? Talk about the generosity that Marlon gave back to the University of Alabama. $250,000?
Was it
$250,000?
200 and I think it was $250,000. I think.
Yep, I think so too. Yep. $250,000.
And
where did he get the spirit to do that? Where talk about Marlon, how he three-time Pro Bowler, All Pro. He's been through some injuries, but those guys are at the peak of their career right now, Bobby.
Yeah, Marlon has done well, has pretty good head on his shoulder, and I'm not exactly sure what influenced him to want to give back, but he's always been a philanthropy. So, he's done some things in Baltimore, surrounding communities in Baltimore. When COVID hit and some of the restaurants was having some problems staying open and meeting the bills, he and a group of guys got together with him spearheading and raising money and helping those restaurants stay in business and then weather the storm through COVID and all that there. So he's always had a pretty good giving spirit. Yeah. And he's been successful on the field. So I think he's having, just by reading what's going on up in Baltimore, he's having a really, really good camp. And he's turned out to be one of the Baltimore favorites there. So that's really good. And he's starting to, fulfill a leadership role there. So he's doing a good job of being a leader and being an example. And I think Harbaugh and the coaching staff are kind of lean on him for certain things and make sure he knows what the pulse is of the coaches in the organization, and he kind of feeds that to the new players. So I think he's doing a really, really good job there. And he decided to pick 44, which was my high school and Miami Dolphins number, and that's why he's wearing 44 now.
Right.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Right.
He's a thoughtful young man. That's a thoughtful young man.
Yeah, that's a thoughtful young man is right. Good job raising him, Bobby.
Thanks.
And all the kids, man. That's beautiful. All right, you're VP of Business Development for Bryant Bank, I think, since when? 2012 or something like that?
Yes, sir. I've been at Bryant Bank now for about 12 years. I've enjoyed being there. I'm VP of Business Development. So it looked like this is where I probably close my career out. Don't plan on going back and coaching. Don't plan on running the rock anymore. And so I think I'm gonna finish it off with here at Bryant Bank, Mr. Bryant, who is the owner of the bank, Coach Bryant's son. Right. And so for those of you who don't know, that's who I work for. Who is has the spirit and the pulse of his father and the excellence of his father. I see the picture in the backdrop back there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and believe in excellence.
He's never far from my thoughts, man. I tell you, he's such an influence on me. Him and my dad. All right. So, what are you working on the farm, Bobby? You doing anything project going on at the farm?
Well, I'm always doing something at the farm. So
that's what I asked you.
There's always something to do. I try not to even get in my truck and head down that way. I just have to make sure instead of turning right, I have to kind of pull to the left really, really strong to don't get on 65 south. I want to go 65 northbound. But the Marlin has a farm, and T. Rich, I don't know if you know this, but I've been spending a lot of time down there. Most of my weekends spent down there either doing something. So now we're trying to get everything ready for hunting season. And Todd, I believe you hunt, don't you?
Yeah, I climbed that tree stand.
Come on down. Come on, T. Rich. Come on down and see us down here in the South, brother.
See, you guys got them little deer, though. You guys, we call up here, we call them Great Danes. You got Great Danes with horns on them.
I know. I hear it from my brothers and my friends too, man. I hear all that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. All right. Any grandchildren yet, Bobby?
I have one, 8 months old. I have a grandson, Samson Ace Humphrey, my oldest son.
Yes.
Married and had a child last November, day after Thanksgiving. And he updates with the pictures just about 3 times a week. So
yeah,
you
pure
see,
joy. Grandchildren.
Hey, Trip and Mark, did you see how he lit up when you asked about his grandbaby? You see that? Look at he's smiling.
I know, man. Hey, Todd. Hey, T-Rich, you don't have it yet, but hey, they're pure joy, man. Grandchildren are pure joy.
Oh, I got a whole basketball team of them.
You got 5?
Man, you can add 3 to that.
Wow. You got 8
you
grandchildren?
got 8 grand?
Yeah, they prolific.
You do have a team, man. You almost have an offense or a defense.
Yep.
Awesome.
Jeez.
Yep.
Right. Hey, guys,
wonderful.
we could go on forever, man, because it's such a joy. Thanks, Hobbs, for joining you guys.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for being on. We'll have to do it again soon, okay? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, guys. It's
Roll
almost
Tide.
football season, baby.
I know, man. Hey, we'll go to some games, Bobby. We'll keep in touch. We'll see you at the games.
All right, take care.
We're trying
See you
to
later,
take-
T-Rich.
Hey,
Gotta get T-Rich down.
everybody stay blessed and well. Stay
You too.
blessed and well. See you later.
y'all.
All right.
Goodbye.
All right.
All right, stay tuned for these messages from all these great sponsors. Without them, this would not happen. What a great interview that was with T-Rich and Bobby. Thanks for joining the show. Stay tuned for these messages here on Coach's Corner. We try to inspire and educate the mind to think, the heart to feel, and the body to act. Have a great sports weekend, everybody. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
Drive a little to save a lot on 170 Buicks and GMCs at Step 1 Buick GMC. Get savings up to $4,000 on new Buick Encores, $9,450 on new Buick Envisions, $7,000 on new GMC Yukon XLs, or up to $15,345 off on new Sierras. Only at Step 1 Buick GMC, Pensacola. Plus tax, tag, title, license, dealer processing fee expires 7/31/24 on select new 24 in-stock models. Discount off MSRP includes all incentives.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
75 years of service and high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple painted brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Barnes Heating and Air is a proud sponsor of Alabama football, serving the entire Pensacola community for over 50 years. Barnes Heating and Air is passionate about providing customers with world-class air conditioning and heating repairs, sales, and installation. Barnes Heating and Air is family-owned, insured, and committed to quality. For a free estimate, call 478-0141. Barnes Heating and Air is #1 in customer service with service calls 7 days a week. Call Barnes Heating and Air 478-0141 and roll Tide.